What up, y'all? Back again. All right, so today I wanted to talk to you about how I talked to you a couple of episodes back about the fallen angels, right? And they made it with the human women. They created the Nephilim in the land, right? And so the Nephilim, there's people that talk about how the Nephilim looked like clowns. So the great big old giants that were in the land back pre-flood, pre-Noah's Ark, pre-flood, and some of them post-flood Noah's Ark for the early onset. They looked like clowns, y'all. Isn't God good? Because you know what they turned into is demons, and demons are sometimes the things that we be dealing with around here, to say the least, are going to be not fleshly, man, but that's that demon inside, of people messing with you. And so God made them look like clowns, y'all. And so it's kind of funny, and I wanted to post this for y'all so that you kind of know. I like to tell you, when I learn something, I want to learn it all. I want to learn what they look like, what they, did, and why they messing with me, where they come from, So I'm here to do that for you. If you don't want to watch it, you don't have to, man, because this has to deal with your seed line, your bloodline, and what you're dealing with. I'm saying you got the good stock, but I'm saying, or you've been graced with the good stock because God came into that heart of yours and made it pure. He fixed you, The master mechanic came up in there. He gave you love because you didn't know love until he first gave it to you. Okay, so, but anyway, when you look and you talk to, because they found a lot of these skulls and bones and things, they call them Smithsonian digs, okay? The Smithsonian, and before that, it was the Spanish conquistadors with the Catholic Church roaming around the world, and they were, collecting these things. They would tell people they were cursed, and we're going to take care of it for you. We're going to get it off your hands. You know how it goes, man. I mean, but for it to be as perfect as it is, it's the spirit running in the physical realm. So it's not just people here, right? But anyway, you talk to anthropologists that have dealt with these, and they'll tell you they had double sets of teeth, and I've seen this because there's some in Caracas, Peru. That's probably the only place you'll find them now. But back in the early 1900s, late 1800s, you'd find these, and you'd find some giant body, just like you would in these dinosaur museums. You'd find there was, I think, a 14-footer somewhere. But they're all riddled throughout. They found them in the old newspapers and stuff. But my point is, these guys were gigantic, especially back in the pre-flood era. That's why they called them Titans, because they were titanic. They were Titans, like Titanic, And this is what we'd call pre-flood reality, was what you'd call mythology today, okay? Hercules, he probably existed. Medusa, all of them people, man. All those people that you fathom as fake. See, this was pre-flood reality, And so, sometimes you gotta, this is what they call the eso and the exoteric. The exoteric is what they're showing you in the way you're believing it like regular. Oh, it's mythology. Okay, but what they're telling each other is real true history. That's how they tell history amongst themselves. That's how they have to tell the truth. But if you're not keen on it, you're not going to know. But mythology is real. I mean, you're talking about Gilgamesh. That dude existed, y'all. I mean, some people believe that he was Nimrod, the one that controlled Babylon. Gilgamesh, same dude. And, when God disrupted the languages, right, there was people that went all different ways, with different languages, with different creeds and stuff. And when they went in those different areas, they all had a different name for Nimrod. They all had a different name for some of these things that they all encountered as one. They just had different names and titles for it, and that's where it screws you up later. Y'all got to be on this now. But they were all pale, very pale. These gigantic Nephilim, these hybrids. Now you're dealing a lot of times. I'm bringing this up because you're dealing. This is a biblical narrative back into history, but this is also stuff that you deal with on sometimes a daily basis because you're talking about what it says in Ephesians 6:12 right here, right? 6:12, Ephesians 6:12. When you start seeing stuff in the physical realm, you'll get this tattooed on you too. But that it says you wrestle not with flesh and blood, but the principalities and powers and these thrones and kingdoms and high places. They don't have to be all up in the air like that. They could just be in elevated positions amongst you. Okay. I mean, just around, they have, and so I'm not saying that you deal with it all the time, but I'm saying like this is stuff that if you're on this channel and you've dealt with narcissism, man, I mean, you're going to find that I think everybody's probably encountered this stuff, but they were pale. Okay, for one, anthropologists tell you they were pale, they were red-haired. I mean, 99% of them. They were red-haired and they were very, very pale. And that's why, like clowns, they put this powder on, this real white, And then they were, so the fallen angels, and they didn't mate with the human women looking like angelic hosts. They always in the Old Testament, whenever they come to man, the host of heaven, they would always look like human men. Okay, they could even eat with you. They ate with Abraham, the good ones that saved them out of Sodom and Gomorrah and stuff, and saved Lot. Okay, and there's been several times. I mean, in Judges, they came along to Ehud and people like that, but Gideon stuff. So what my point is though, that but under that covering, they were a certain class of angelic hosts. That's my point. They have messenger angels. I don't know. I think Gabriel was more of a messenger angel because Michael, he's the man. Michael had to come save him because he's the warrior, And so you'll read that in Ezekiel, okay? A wheel within a wheel, But God's got many folds, manifolds to him, okay? You get me back to thinking about Ezekiel now. All right, but but these were seraphim angels, these 200 that came down and mated with human women. Seraphim means serpent-headed angels. They had 6 wings, and they were the type of angels that also covered the throne of God, that the glory of God, they would say, would shine so bright that they would have wings to cover their body, wings to cover their head. They have six wings, 3 on each side. And it was to protect themselves from the glory of God while they were there protecting God as his soldiers. Well, the 200 that came down happened to be seraphim angels. It just seems like everything related to the enemy is serpent. And it's funny because, you hear stuff about the narcissist that they would be reptilian-like, the reptilian brain, because it's cold. It's got no love. But they would be pale white, red hair. That's what you'd see a clown look like. They would have big feet, right? Bigger than them, because they were telling you that. They're mimicking giants. And they would always also put makeup going up and down because reptilian eyes were, reptilian shapeshifters, they call them. That's why I think when people are seeing reptilian shapeshifting people, they're actually seeing the spirit in the physical realm. You're seeing the thing shift. Some people would say that's the demon inside them, and they're always reptilian. And some people would say that they actually would shift because we have heart, we have empathy, but they don't. Okay, so if you don't have empathy, for instance, and your body is supposed to mimic you crying or those emotions, your body would go into that emotion, that field of emotion, and the demon in them, the devil in them wouldn't understand that feeling because they don't understand empathy. So they would freeze up. And then you would see the demon through the body of that individual that's controlling them. You know, and some people, and I believe this is true too. Now, there's some that are, you know, they look like us, but they are not human at all, that are roaming around here. You got to know that. And so you don't know if you're seeing a demon in somebody, or, you know, if it's like, or if it's just a metaphysical covering, you know, of somebody who's not human at all. They're just mimicking us. And so that happens as well. But they would have the paint going up and down to mimic the reptilian eye. They would have elongated lips. That's why you would see, even on the Joker, he had a slit on each side. Like he took a razor and made it bigger. And then they would paint the big red lips, because they had big, like they were wider mouth. And that's what reptilians would have. And so they would have a wide mouth, and they would even talk about how, you know, a serpent can dislocate its jaw to eat bigger things. And because they had a wide mouth, serpents have a wide mouth. So the giants of old, they look serpent-like. They have long necks. And sometimes when you'll see stuff in people that are more tribal than, like, you know, modern society, they mimic some of these things. And some people believe it's because that they used to see these things, and they were, sometimes they're gods. You know, like a lot of times in the world today, you know, gods were things that people saw on a regular basis. They saw these things. These things were here, you know, or, you know, but they also had elongated skulls. And sometimes you'll see, like, some of people of power would wear these big hats. And some people believe it's because they were watered down giants of old, and they still had the elongated skull, so they'd cover it up with a big hat. Or, you know, early on I believe, you know, well, anyway, in the early 1800s, and these old photos, you'd see a lot of people with these top hats that were huge. Makes you wonder. But they would have the red lips because they were also cannibals. And so you'll see on clowns, they would have bigger heads, sometimes elongated heads. And so these are all things that they would do. But it's kind of interesting when you go to, like, a, you know, because, like, when you're dealing with when you're dealing with something evil, I'll say this: when you're dealing with something evil, you're going to find that they're just a complete waste of your time and draining. But it's kind of like when you go to a carnival, though, or to a circus or something, man. What you get nothing out of that, really. You know, it's kind of stupid. I mean, I don't know, my opinion, but you spend money, you leave drained, and you got nothing out of it, you know. And so anyway, that's just my opinion. But also, like, what you would see in a lot of you know, when we were all tribal before we were this modern society, you know, we'd paint different things, you know, like people of old, they would paint faces and they would dress up. And that's because, like, that's what a lot of Nephilim looked like. You know, they would have different tones to them, like serpents do. And they would have that crinkle thing around their neck. They would call it something, but it was kind of like, you know, when a snake would rear and it would have this thing that would shoot out. I forgot what they call it, but it's like this apron looking thing. But they have a title for it. Anyway, I thought it was pretty interesting and very, very much relatable to what's going on. But also, people that would do ayahuasca and stuff would say that things looked cartoonesque. And in the cartoons, they would deal with clowns and a lot of checkered board creatures. That's why you'd see a lot of people would paint themselves, like, with black and white a lot. And that's why people that are into witchcraft and stuff, they have a lot of black and white tiles, checkerboard in a lot of things. And that does represent as above, so below. But what happened is a lot of people believe that when people would do ayahuasca and stuff like that, they would end up, you'd hear people talk about this online, but that they would see these clowns and they would be in black and white checkerboard and stuff. But a lot of it's because they're in this fractionated reality. But also people will talk about how, you know, they've been seeing like faces on people, like demonic faces on people. And they have like a title for it because they don't know what to do about it. But they've had like several cases, like 75, 80 cases over the last few years pop up. And that, you know, people believe that they would have like, their faces would change. And it wouldn't change like on paper, on a photo, but they would see people all around. And say half of them would have like different faces on, that they were different. And they just had to get used to it. But it's something like, some people believe it's the thinning of the veil, the spiritual veil that's leading us up to the very end of things, end of time. And, you know, they say when you go through a lot of trauma that you can see into the spirit realm and see through the physical realm into the spirit realm. And I think for the time that I started to, when I saw a few faces and stuff, it was, I definitely had gone through a lot of trauma. So that could be very possible, but that's where you get people like shamans and stuff. They would say a lot of times that when they became shamans, they didn't want to become shamans. It's not a good thing. It's to become that. But they would say that they had gone through a lot of trauma before, and they would start being able to see these creatures and things around. And so they were able to deal with the spirit realm. And, you know, some people would say that a lot of times, if you've ever dealt with somebody that has something in them, that thing is in them like in a coat, a cloak. It's like a suit over them or in them. And it's kind of like they want to feel through you because they're insatiable. And so they want to taste, they want to feel, and have all of those senses. So it's like they're arterial, you know, throughout you. But they also don't want the victim. They're parasitic. And they say, there's a doctor that would talk about this, and he got kind of blackballed from society because he was like healing people because they didn't have what, you know, modern society would say was something else, like witchcraft related, and he was fixing them. They didn't like that. But anyway, he would say they don't like to be called parasites. But the victims, a lot of times, like you could unravel and see things on somebody, and the victim wouldn't even know it because they don't even want them to know. And they have a way about, you know, joining with them to where they're able to experience everything and control them. But the victim really doesn't even know what's going on sometimes. And so that's all. I just wanted to kind of go over that. I thought it was interesting. I don't expect a lot of people to watch this, but I'm going to put it out there. And, you know, I don't really care who watches it, who doesn't. I'm just kind of putting stuff out these days. So I love y'all. Give me a like, subscription, thumbs up. Peace out. Peace.